Welcome, folks, to episode 160 of the Morgue Official CorpsFeed podcast. And I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me, always, is Mr. Nick Valdez. Tex, how are you? I know it's hot down there.
Oh man,
how you been, bro?
Howdy everybody. Howdy Arturo. It's like 100 we got triple digits over here where I'm at, and it's every day, Arturo. Like
that sucks.
I think what it is though is that's it for life. You know what I mean? It's all just gonna go up.
Yeah, right. We gotta just get used to this kind of heat right now, right?
Yeah, it's gonna get to like 110s and then 120s.
Soon this is gonna become Maz from Total Recall.
Yo,
it's gonna be that hot and our heads is gonna explode, bro.
I hate to say it, but yeah. Hopefully,
anyways,
I know, right? Yeah, like I'm hoping for a steady uptake. You know?
Yeah, dude. Good luck down there. It's hot up here, but I know it's hotter down there. So stay cool, my man.
Yeah. So jumping in. So we got the coming attractions this week. So we're jumping on the Exorcist Believer trailer again, mostly because now it's online.
Yeah.
So now the buddies at home at this point, if they didn't get to see Oppenheimer, now they've seen this trailer, and so on second watch, I don't know how I'm feeling, Arturo. I don't know. What are you thinking?
You know what? On second watch, I'm still digging it, to be honest with you. Me and Tex talk all the time off air about the David Gordon Green effect. Halloween 2018 was just like really good, and then after that, like we saw a really cool trailer for Halloween Kills, right? And then it was just garbo after that, So I am a little cautious walking into this because of that experience with DGG, but to be honest, this looks kind of cool. I'm really for me, it's that double possession gimmick. I'm kind of digging that. And the girls look to be doing a really good job in that really like gnarly, possessed makeup and stuff. I know in the trailer they bring back the original mom, Ellen Bernstein, who last episode I thought she wasn't with us anymore, so I apologize about that. She's going strong, luckily, but she's back, which is great. So that's a really cool thing to have that original connection. I'm just curious to see how they're going to work that in, because in the trailer, and towards the last part of the trailer, we see a lot of the callbacks from the original Reagan possession, right?
So that's the thing. It's I still feel like what we said last time is apt. Now that now that we got to see it again for more context, and it wasn't just like that we're kind of like, oh, was this in the trailer? Was this not in the trailer? That kind of stuff. So the TV show, perfect sequel already, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So that first season, go watch that first season. And the other thing is the David Gordon Green effect, like you said, but at the same time, do they have that good first idea? Do they have that good idea for that sequel, right? Like, do they have that one thing? Yeah, because the trilogy might not be great. No one's
looking for a trilogy of this thing. They tried that, back when the original came in. There was 2 and 3 and 4 and some other spin-offs and stuff like that, but those never really clicked, right? But my concern is here exactly what Tex mentioned, that we already had the callback to the original story, right, in that show in season 1, which was done absolutely brilliantly. And if you guys haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It is on Hulu. And anywhere you can watch any Fox material. But that's what my concern is. Like, if you're bringing this person back, we already did this already, and it was very good and very well done. And on national TV, on national broadcast, for God's sakes. And they got away with a bunch of awesome, gnarly things in that show. So this has to live up to that, to be honest with you. Like, it's not like we haven't had any Exorcist material after the first one, you know what I mean? So it's like it's nothing new. And on top of that, we have had a slew of possession movies throughout the course of the last 5 years. The Pope's Exorcist is one that we just reviewed over here.
I was like, we just had one this year already, or 2. And then if you want to talk general possession, not just demon stuff, we're talking about like 2 of them today.
We got a double feature that's actually like worthwhile to watch, So
you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
the odds are stacked, right?
It has a lot to live up to, man. Like, honestly, like, this is why I'd prefer these directors who have success with a franchise once, right? To kind of try your own thing, you know, like try an original movie, you know, trying to rehash these classic, you know, IPs, you know, from the, you know, the ashes. It's honestly, it's not worth it anymore, you know, like the stories are never really good. Like this is why 2018 is an outlier, because like that story of Laurie Strode and that focus has never been done, and it should have been done already, and it finally was done with 2018 Halloween, right? But after that, no one, like, what are we doing here? Like we are doing another possession movie, but how is that? How, like, it, as I mentioned before, we've seen a lot of possession, and you just slap the name Exorcist on there, and you know it's nothing,
just
you know,
it's the brand name, right? And so that's what it is. It's we talked about this last time too, where it's like, you know, does the brand help it at all? Does the brand elevate it? And I guess that's what we'll see. Is, you know, that'll be the ultimate test that we get. That'll be the get us to believe in it. If, you know, if they have that one good idea, and if the brand helps elevate the concept. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. So moving on with the coming attractions is we got TV offerings with Amazon Prime with the double hitter that came out over the course of that San Diego Comic-Con weekend. You know, we already had a lot to talk about, so we couldn't squeeze them in. So Invincible season 2. We reviewed the first season of Invincible. Both loved it. You know, both loved how it came to an end too. And season 2 starting in November. There's also an Adam Eve episode already on Amazon Prime, like already like a special about her, like her origins. So go check that out. But season 2, I'm excited because as someone who's read the comic and who's currently reading like ahead from where I was, because I stopped reading like in the middle of like the 70s or something like that. I forget where, but
same here.
But yeah, like season 2 it's going to have Angstrom in it, and Angstrom is like this dude who, you know, we're getting multiverse stuff, and I know multiverse at this point is played out, but in Invincible they don't, you know, it's really just one universe he goes to. It's not like wild stuff like that, but the multiverse stuff is mainly for the Angstrom Levy stuff. Who, you know, he's a scientist who's like, oh man, he figured something out, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh well, let me go recruit all the other me's from across the multiverse. And like, you know, it's one of those situations rather than like, oh, Invincible suddenly needs to go to like a universe and team up with another Invincible. No, it's a little different. So I'm curious to see, because now before it used to be the like, oh, multiverse, it was a cool idea in the comic, and now it's like at this point it's like,
at this point it's like, okay, let's saturate the market again, right?
So I'm curious.
I'm excited as well, because as you all know, as Tex mentioned, we did review the first season, we all loved it, and I'm excited where it left off at this big kind of like super downer, right? And I'm curious to see how they bring that back to life. Like, I've read the comic books. I didn't get as far as you did, but I got past, you know, the first season for sure. So I'm curious how they bring that all to light. It looked great. I am hoping it continues to look great, you know, that they didn't slack on that quality of the production. And I know it's been, when did the first season come out? It wasn't exactly last year, right? It was the year before that, right?
It was a pandemic drop. So as far as I know,
so
like it's all in the blog.
So we've been waiting for this one for a little bit, and I'm really excited about it. They got great cast of voice actors, of actors and actresses all around, just to, you know, voice all these characters, and they showcase that, like, and they throw it right at you in this teaser trailer. And the teaser trailer, they don't show much. That's why I'm excited, because they're not showing the good stuff, you know.
Right.
But they wanted to showcase all the awesome voices attached to this project. And Tex, I'm very excited, and I'm also very excited for our next upcoming attraction, right? A spinoff of The Boys, Gen V, right? Which is I'm not too certain about the timeline, so you might need to correct me on that. But is it before?
I don't know either. Like, the whole thing is like, it's just a school where they raise all those babies that they've been making. So it's like, like I'm very curious. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think timeline's going to matter too much. I hope that's the case. It's more just like, you know, the way it looks, it just looks like an excuse for us to get like these kinds of wild stories with teams with superpowers, you know. So it's like,
I do hope though, Tex, that it doesn't desensitize us to that kind of world, since we are getting what a 4, right, of the boys.
That's true, but also, Arturo, like that's the thing is, the boys seems kind of like to like, I don't know, it seems like it's pulling away from like the wilder stuff. Like, yeah, like of course, you know, in season 3 we have the tiny dude, you know, jumping into like the, you know, the giant schlong, and then, you know, we have those moments, you know, the orgies and stuff like that. Like we have those moments, but at the same time, I don't know, it might be like, oh, we're getting a little serious, so it's like,
it got more focused, right? Especially on Homelander, right?
So it's like,
now he has a kid involved, so who knows how wild they're gonna, you know, do stuff now that the kid's probably gonna be like, you know, a part of the story the entire time.
And it's gonna get political, and it's gonna, like, I feel like that's the thing. It's like I'm hoping that's the case. That's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna do a little more of the, you know, we're going to do more story over here. So over in this one, this is where we're going to do the
all that wild stuff you guys wanted. That, you know what? I'll take it. The boys has not disappointed.
That's the other thing. I got full confidence.
Its inception. I'm excited about this one. It looks fun. It seems to be in the same kind of you know, mature adult vein. Like they're not holding back as the boys don't. So I'm excited about this one, folks. If you haven't caught the boys, go on Amazon Prime, go catch up. There's plenty of time to catch up before the new season. When does this one drop, Tex?
Man, I have not done my research, Arturo. I feel bad about this.
I'm sorry, I just put you on the spot. But anyways, I think it drops at some point in the fall. I know, like all the Amazon stuff. All the Amazon stuff seems to be coming out during the fall. So, but we're definitely going to stay tuned for that one, because it's content, folks.
September 29th.
There you go. And especially during the time of the strike, I'm glad we're getting this new content. So I am very happy for that.
So we are gonna watch it, and we'll let you know how it turns out. I hope fingers crossed for everything.
Crossing my fingers
about here, right? Yeah.
Crossing my fingers. And now, folks, with that said, it's time for our feature presentation. We got a good double feature for you guys today, for sure, man. I'm very excited to talk about these movies, especially our headliner for the day. But before we get to the headliner, let's go over Disney's Haunted Mansion, the new iteration of Disney's Haunted Mansion. And you know what? Like for a family, you know, in the summertime, I say go pay for it. It's a great way to get the kids out of the house and into the theaters to watch something spooky, you know. For a person with no kids and stuff, I would say you can wait for it on Disney. But if you do have kids, I definitely recommend taking them. It is, for me, an entry level kind of you know, spook fest there for the kids. It does feel a little long. It felt a little long to me, especially during the second act there. But it was fun. Tex, what do you think? Pay for it, wait for it, stay away from it?
You know, it's funny the way you framed that, where, you know, because you know, those are our experiences, right? Like you have kids, you're taking your kids to see this. I don't, and I was exactly going to say, hey, wait for it to hit Disney Plus in October, when it's like, you know, I'm pretty sure that by October we'll get a digital release or a Disney.
Yeah, because it's a 45-day window or something like that, right? So it's going to fall right in line with the you know spooky season there.
That's the only way that this movie coming out in July would make sense, you know, because it's like it's not really like a summer blockbuster.
That's a great point, Tex. Why would they release it in July and not like during October?
And so I'm hoping it's like you know, they're aiming it so that when the Disney Plus thing does hit, they could be like, oh, you know, because they don't have like a Hocus Pocus 2 to rely on this year. They don't have like a big budget, like,
even that wasn't much to rely on, but yeah.
But you get what I'm saying, though, right? Where it's like Disney Plus was like, this is our big thing for October, so the Haunted Mansion would fit perfectly with that. And so with that said, just wait for Disney Plus. Even honestly, even as Arturo said, even if you do have kids, maybe, you know, they'd be better served. Like, we haven't seen it yet, but maybe there's Ninja Turtles out there. There's Barbie. There are movies out there that maybe like more. I don't know. Like, I'm curious to see what you think about that, Arturo. But yeah, in terms of the movie, like I'm not saying wait for it in that sense. It's more just like that was fun, but also watch it on Disney Plus.
I definitely have to disagree on that point. My kids had fun watching the movie. So them, and believe it or not, the adults that were in the theater with the kids were laughing it up too as well. Like all the jokes were hitting right.
I'll agree there too.
Like in terms of like an overall like experience, everyone had fun in that theater. Like everyone actually enjoyed the movie. The kids that were there were laughing. In the spooky scary parts they were doing the little the little let me shy away from the screen thing. But it hit all the right notes for a child. Good. Which is, in my experience, like it's good to take them to that stuff. Especially you have Barbie, but Barbie isn't really a kid movie. To be honest with you, it's not.
That's true. Like thinking back on it now, right?
Yeah, it really isn't. Like if you have like a tween, a young adult, preteen kind of thing, yes, by all means, like Barbie for sure will be in line with that mentality. Remember, like these kids like mature like mentally in different ages and stuff like that. So Barbie was a little up there, in my opinion. Like. For instance, this week there's nothing but Haunted Mansion. Like people already saw Barbie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People. I don't think Elemental is in theaters anymore.
No, it's not.
Man. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like this movie, I still say pay for it if you're a parent. If you're looking to take something, like if you're looking to take your kids out and experience like a horror-esque adjacent kind of like movie, like I said in my review, an entry level experience for the kids. I think it's worth it. As a person who loves horror, I love all kinds of horror, but I understand that there is a certain maturity that comes to watching horror. You can't just throw everything at them. So it's good to see a movie that kind of still does a little spooky stuff well, and still it looks good and it has a decent story, good comedy. It's good to put that out there in the ether. It's like let's say if we were kids back in the day, which we were, and we were going to go see Gremlins in theaters. You know what I mean?
It does have that vibe of like
vein. Let's show the kids something a little fun. Maybe they won't see totally well, you know what I mean, because of certain images, but like in my opinion, as a parent and as a critic, I think this was a movie very well done for kids.
It's a good way of putting it.
But me personally, like I think it's a wait for it. You know what I mean? Like if you have children, like my critique is solely based on the kid factor. They got it right. As a person who enjoys a Disney World, it'd be cool to see them, update the ride itself in Disney to kind of, showcase the new updated looks of these ghosts and stuff like that. So that'd be cool. But like I was saying before, this movie had some good comedy stuff that's, surprisingly funny.
So
Wilson.
No. So that's the thing. I don't know anything about the ride. It's the same thing with like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like I didn't know. And I didn't know anything about this ride. I don't know any of the ghosts. I don't. Me neither. The whole time I was wondering, I was like, okay, so are these ghosts from the ride? Are these like? I'm sure the Hatbox ghost is, right? But
all that stuff is part of it. Like, believe it or not,
all the
ride itself is when, for instance, when Tiffany Haddish's character got in that big old seat, with the round back and everything, right? Like, that is what the ride, cart looks like. And it takes you through like the Haunted Mansion like that, like the way they got taken like fast to certain things, and then like the walls going up, like there were a bunch of aspects of the ride that were thrown in this movie. And I was like, and I thought that was pretty cool and a pretty cool tactic to kind of like tie them both together, because I know nothing of Haunted Mansion besides that it's a ride at Disney,
Yeah, and
so,
like that is pretty cool. That, like, because for someone like me, it just translated as like haunted house stuff, that they were just doing like kooky haunted house things. And so, that stuff I enjoyed. Like, so getting into it, I like the setup a lot. Like, I do love the setup, of it took me a while, like it took me a second to get used to like how people are dressed in this movie, because it's like because it's very old timey, because Rosario Dawson's character is like
modern day time though.
Yeah, because she was dressed in like a period looking outfit, but had a
her
cell
kid
phone,
was too, right?
Yeah, but had like an iPhone with her, and so like it took me a second to be like, oh, okay, so this is still just modern times. They just decide to dress this way. So once I got over that, like, but that's not really like an issue either. It's a non-issue kind of thing. It was just like a weird production thing. I noticed.
It is too, because I wonder, I'm like, why is this kid dressed like that?
Yeah, and then he does say it later that that's his choice to like dress like that, and that's why he gets made fun of at school. And okay, it all gets explained, and I'm like, okay, et cetera, right? So, but beyond that, like, I like the setup that the whole thing is about Lakeith Stanfield's character, who he was a scientist before that. He met his future wife, or he met his wife, and suddenly became more interested in ghosts and kind of got made fun of like for making a ghost camera essentially. But then then he starts getting depressed because he loses his wife passes away, and the whole thing is like he's become this jaded guy who gets involved in this haunted mansion situation, from Owen Wilson, who is a priest, but so we find out the whole thing of that later. But the whole, what it is once he goes into the mansion, he finds out that he's haunted by these ghosts, even if he tries to go back home. So they're all kind of stuck there.
Yeah, I think that's a good gimmick there.
Yeah, like I like the idea, and eventually they get Tiffany Haddish's medium character in there. Harriet, I want to say her name was. I forget.
Yes,
I'm already blanking on her name.
Yeah, Harriet. I believe it was.
Yeah, Danny DeVito Danny DeVito gets to do some Frank stuff in here, some Frank Reynolds. So like,
that's so good. I was like, there he is, the master.
Yeah. So Danny DeVito comes in, and they're all stuck in this house with all these ghosts, and have to figure out what the deal is, and so. Suddenly, it's like they find out that there's a lead ghost played by Jared Leto, who, like, I'm glad they changed up his voice and stuff, and we don't really have to look at him.
Yeah, like I think I totally forgot that it was a Jared Leto, right? Because they say at the beginning with the credits, they put all the credits in the front of the movie there, and you see, he's the guy in the ghost hat, and I'm like, oh, okay. I think the only time I remembered it was him. It was in the in the painting. I'm like, oh, that looks like a young Jared Leto from 30 Seconds to Mars.
When they gave us the Alistair Crump, that's his name, the Hatbox Ghost. When they gave us his origin story, which was coolly presented, by the way. I did like the way it like kind of did like an old timey painting, kind of like
definitely dig it. Yeah.
And so that's the only time I really see his face, and the rest of it is just the CG ghost. And smart move, by the way. They they toned up his. They changed the reverb on his voice and stuff like that, so we couldn't even tell it was him.
I wonder, I wonder how into it he actually got, and they had to fix everything in post.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I appreciate all those little things for us to forget that it was Jared Leto, right?
Yes. Yeah, all right. Dr. Morbius, or you're not messing with this one.
Yeah, and so I say all this to say in the summary and all that to say I liked it. That's the thing is it's not like a bad watch, and like you said, Arturo, I'm glad it plays out for the kids really well.
Yes, yeah,
because the spooky stuff actually works. I will say that too.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah, I like. I like the haunted house stuff. It was just very, very smart,
Yeah, it really does. And again, we say wait for it because there are other things that we think you should watch in theaters like Barbie and Oppenheimer and stuff like that, that
Right.
you won't get that same experience at home. Maybe Oppenheimer, but Barbie, just go watch that in theaters, legit. But like this one, as we mentioned before, like it's just that there's so much content that we feel that there's other things that you should kind of watch in theaters. But this one, wholeheartedly, like it's a good package. It's a good deal. In terms of the spooks as well, it's definitely well done. Like you do get you know, some, you know, really well done spooky moments. The ghosts look great. It looks like they it took the, you know, you remember the ghost from that Ghostbuster rehash with Melissa McCarthy and stuff like that.
Right,
so they took that kind of visual of ghosts and they kind of refined it and toned back all the bright colors and stuff like that. And the ghosts look really good. Like I love the gimmick itself that the ghosts attached to them the minute they enter the house, because it's a good way to keep them in that one location, you know, and to kind of just showcase what the haunted house can really do. So I really do appreciate that they like figured out a way to not go too far away from the haunted house, because as we saw, Tex, like in the middle of Act 2, where they go to find you know, an actual item that you know, the Crump actually owned, right? It gets really slow, the movie. It gets, you know, it drags a little bit.
That's
like
the one thing, is that like
when you're away from the house, it kind of drags, honestly.
Yeah, like that's the big thing. Like it's a 2-hour movie, and so like, you know, I really feel like there was a, you know, maybe an hour 45 version that would have really worked.
Agreed.
Because when they go to leave the house and go get the hats, there's you know, there are some cameos that don't like, that are like, oh, this is kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, the Winona Ryder one, it was like, okay, you know, cool that you're like here, but like,
and then the joke goes on too long, where you know, she's like explaining stuff, and Lakeith Stanfield's going, well, did that belong to him? And she's like, no. And it's like, well, yeah, like we really only needed that like once, right? Like that.
No, you could have had Aubrey Plaza do that for less money, probably.
Yeah, like that joke really only worked the first time, and then it kept going. And like, you know, then there's a Dan Levy you know, cameo, and he's like another tour guide, and he's got like his own gimmick of like, oh, I'm the fun one or whatever. And it's like the felt completely unnecessary. That's the thing. It's like, it's superfluous, and it's like you could have cut that whole thing out. You know, maybe put the top hat in the mansion itself, like hidden within it or something. You know, like that's my only thing. Is you're completely right. Is when they go get the top hat, when they leave the house, it gets a little slow, and it gets, you know. But when they're back in it, and by the time you get to like the climax, you get the third act, like, yo, I was in. Like, I was like, yo, I was like, this is a fun. Like, I was like back in.
Yeah, because like the stakes have gotten so high at that point. You're like, yo, get back to the house, dude. You don't, like, the house is going crazy while these guys are looking for this hat, right? Like they finally get there, and then again, as you mentioned, you're back into it. You know what I mean? At full force. And the and Act 3 of this thing was fun. It was a nice little, like, you know, horror kind of ending there, where you, like, in the cemetery. It was very Krampus-like, right?
Yeah, it was total like, it was total horror movie ending. Like, that's the thing. Is like, there were still jokes, but it's like, no, that's a portal to hell that he's standing.
Yeah, it's a portal to hell. It's like he has to, you know, figure out his sacrifice and all that stuff. So, again, this is why I say it's a good way to get the kids involved in the scary stuff, you know, like at a nice young age, at a Disney approved age. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a great point. That's a great way to put it, you know.
And from there, you can show them garbage like Boogeyman if you want. But
that's the thing. It's like, you know, and the cast is solid enough. Like Lakeith Stanfield, he isn't great all the time, you know, because that's the thing. He has to play like a down version. Like, I don't know how to describe it.
I think that's because he's super talented, and he shows it here.
I'm wondering if that's the character. You know,
I think that's the character and the writing, because like he's very talented, and you can see it in the scenes that require the emotion that's needed of a widower. Like, he brings out like that. You know what I mean? Without
I was feeling it.
Yeah, for sure. Like all those little, like, you know, like very deep emotional moments, he hits them like super well, but his character is a little awkward at times. I think that's the way it was written in the script, honestly, because that whole, like, for example, his introduction to Gabby, Rosario Dawson's character, it's very awkward, very kind of like clunky, you know. And then when the ghosts bring them back is when, you know, you really get going with these characters. But yeah, it was written a little clunky, but he does a great job. Yes.
No, we'll talk about it later. But so yeah, so it was good. It was good. You know, my only thing was, it was a little clunky. There are moments like that in this movie that, like, thinking about in retrospect, that if you cut those out, you know, we probably would have. But at the same time, for what it is, you know, it's just a solid time. Like, just watch it on Disney Plus, you know. And like you said, I do agree with Arturo. If you have a family, you know, go have a fun, spooky time in the summer. You know, that's my other thing is, like, out of all the release times, like, that's the only thing that would make sense to me is like they release it now so they can have it on Disney Plus in October. You know?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Danny DeVito, like we said, awesome, and Owen Wilson, I think, are steal the show in terms of the comedy stuff. Owen Wilson is doing, you know, vintage Owen Wilson things in here. He's so good. Right?
I forgot to mention that. Yeah,
like, that's why I wanted to bring it up before we move on. But yeah, Owen Wilson's so good in this movie,
dude. When he's fully in it for like the third act, you know, and he gets to do like his thing, like, really, like, it's because he's kind of playing around with something through the whole movie.
Yeah,
right?
and it works so well.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it because, you know, because that's
it's
part
like
of,
I gotta
like,
do my morning prayers, right?
Yeah.
And then like, but it's nighttime. No, it's daytime in Rome.
Yeah, and you know, he's so like, good. Oh, you mind if I set us up with a prayer? And he's like, God, just give us a break. And that's the thing is, I don't want to spoil what his gimmick is.
Yeah, but he's good. He's an awesome priest. And Danny DeVito as a little scientist, and his freaking, like, plastic raincoat he wears throughout the movie. So good.
So yeah, like, that's the thing too. Like, these characters are fun. Like, you know, Danny DeVito, they like. Owen Wilson figures out he's possessed because Danny DeVito's like, oh, what's happy hour? You know, and we see before, and Danny DeVito's like, oh, happy hour at the Benihana and stuff like that. And like, and even Tiffany Haddish's medium, she's great too, because like the whole sage thing, the whole, like, you know, you don't know if she's got powers, but she does.
Yeah.
It's good.
It
all
very
plays out.
Yeah, it's very good. And this is why, like, you know, like, it's a good time, especially in this heat wave. It's a good time to turn off the air conditioners, save a little energy, you know, especially with the kids at home and out of school. Take them to the theater for a couple hours, you know, and then have a good time. That being said, next up in our double feature, not a kids movie. Keep them at home, because this is purely just an awesome, fantastic horror movie. Tex, we finally have one here with Talk to Me. A24. Thank you, A24, for finally giving us a really good horror movie this year.
Man, you know, A24, like, we've talked at length about this studio, right? And it's like, you know, they distribute a lot, they produce their own, and it's like not all of them are hits because of it, right? And so this time, you know, and you come to expect a certain, like, artsy fartsy thing with them too. When they even distribute something, when they pick up a license to a movie, it's usually like, oh, this is highbrow stuff. And
yes,
thankfully, no. Like, we can safely say, okay, so let's start out with this, Arturo. What do you think? Pay for it, wait for it, stay away from it.
Absolutely pay for this thing as soon as you can, especially for a horror fan. Text, wait for it, pay for it, stay away from it.
Yeah, pay for it. Like, it's a total pay for it. Like, the reason I was saying all that is because, like, I could thankfully say that this isn't like artsy fartsy. You know,
no, it's not.
Like, it's not some, like, hoity-toity gimmick that it's like, oh no, like, this is straight up like Haunted Mansion. This is straight up a ghost and possession movie, and like spirits and spirit worlds. Like in Haunted Mansion, there's a whole spirit world sequence.
Yeah, dude, it's wild how much not alike they are, but in themes, right? Like, in themes that are definitely super alike. And it was wild because I saw Haunted Mansion afterwards, and I'm like, holy shit, like I saw this shit yesterday to a crazier level, you know what I mean?
Yeah, same here. And that's what I mean. Like, it's so funny, like seeing that stuff play out. It's, it was just a funny double feature that it worked out. But talk to me, man. Like, we've been wanting to talk about this since we've seen it.
We've been wanting to talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about a good horror movie, and I finally have one that I can, shout it at the top of the mountain, go watch this thing. And I'm very happy about that. It kind of warms my heart as a horror critic, and somebody who's, who just loves horror. And this year, like I said before, the best we've got, honestly, was Sick from Peacock. And that was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it was like a streaming release.
And it was a streaming release too.
We finally have something in the theater.
Exactly. And first and foremost, before we get to break this down, shout out to A24, who was one of the first studios out there to actually, approve contracts and, with their writers and their actors and their workers and stuff like that. So awesome job for them. Great job doing the right thing. And because they do the right thing, it seems this is what happens. You get quality films like this every once in a while from the studio. This one comes straight from Australia, which again, I was not aware. I thought it was an English movie, to be honest with you, based on the trailer. I didn't really hear any Australian accents in the trailer or anything like that. So it was wild seeing all these Australian like movie brands, right, pop up.
Yeah, it was definitely tricky editing. So that's the thing. So that's a heads up. Like, I do have to say that as a heads up. Like, if you're checking it out, you don't know, and maybe you have some kind of aversion to like different accents, or like maybe you have trouble hearing stuff, and so in those cases, do wait so you can watch it with subtitles just in case. But no, like, it's wild too, because these dudes, the Filippo brothers, I don't know if that's how to properly say their name, so apologies, but they actually had like a YouTube channel before all this. Like,
that's awesome.
They had like a big YouTube channel in Australia. Raka. I've never heard of it before, but apparently they're a big deal. And so they made a horror movie, and it turned out to be like super good. So
let's start to break this down, man.
Yeah,
let's do this. I really wanted to talk about this movie. Let's start from the beginning, right?
So
off the bat,
you get a kill. Like it's confirmed to not be a kill later, spoilers, but you get violence like maybe like 2-3 minutes into the movie, which is something that like we clock on here all the time about like, okay, when's the first kill? And you get one like immediately. So it's a good way to start things off.
Very good way. And then like it's not just the kills, it's the way the kill happens, right? It's just kind of a shocking kind of thing. You don't expect it to happen. And that off the bat just got me stirring. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, remember like in Boogeyman when they just killed the baby in the beginning?
And we
it was
thought
like that.
We were in
I was like,
like,
oh shit, okay, here we go, right?
We thought we were in for a good time, right?
We weren't.
Like, oh wow,
we weren't. We were terribly wrong over there. But in this one, we were definitely in for a good time. So as Tex mentioned, we get the brutality and we get everything right off the front. So off the bat, you're like, okay, we're kind of messing around with some brutality over here. And they weren't shying away from showing the kill as well. So we get to the gimmick here, all right, pretty much. There's this hand. We don't know much about it at all. Supposedly, according to the story in the movie, it was the hand of a medium that was cut off or something because she was seeing ghosts or something like that, right?
What was funny is that because all the characters are kids, like they're all teenagers, like it's all rumors and like
it's all hearsay.
Yeah, it was either the hand of a medium that got cut off, or it was like I forget the other thing.
Satanist, right?
A
Satanist, a psychic, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And what's really awesome about that is that that's it. That's all we really kind of know, that this hand gets passed down from one person to another. Just, not like the Lament configuration from Hellraiser where there's all this craziness behind it. No, this thing just like,
so I like that. I kind of like that the lore doesn't really matter because the thing is we see it in action. That's the thing,
exactly.
Right?
it's not just a story, right?
Yeah, it's not just like a thing they say. It's not someone explaining it to us. Like we've said in many times in movies, when you explain the thing, you know, oftentimes you lose that mystique. And in explaining it, that's where they fumble, right? Like we always go back to Lights Out. We will bash it one more time because it's like
all the time.
When as soon as they explained what the monster was,
it's a wrap. It ruined it completely. Yeah,
and
the little mystique it had, it was gone. Yeah.
A recent example, Boogeyman, right? As soon as they explained what it was, ruined it, right? And so the hand, they were like, well, it might be this, it might be this, it might be this. And ultimately, the vibe is, who cares? Let's get to it, right? And so
exactly,
it's such a like in the trailer, it looked like a cool thing. That's why we were we were interested at first, right? We were like, well, shaking the hand of the thing, like that's a fun little idea, right? But no, dude, like seeing it in action is so like in the actual movie. It's
absolutely fantastic. Just one thing about the hand, like I really enjoy the gimmick because it's evergreen, dude. Like you can put this thing wherever. The hand can travel to all
franchise, right?
All the ends of the earth, right? It's like, oh, I found this hand at a flea market, or my grandma had this hand in in her closet or whatever, and she passed away. It can pop up anywhere. So stay tuned probably for a bunch of sequels for Talking to Me too. You know what I mean?
Look who's talking to, right?
That's a good one.
If it were any studio other than A24, if this were Blumhouse, thing,
forget about it.
We'd be like, it would have got announced already, right?
A sequel would have got announced, and then a prequel would have got announced as well as to how the hand happened in the first place, right?
To show us the origins of the hand,
to show us whose hand that was. But the hand, though, Tex. Let's get to the gimmick here.
Let's get into it.
The minute you shake that hand, dude, I did not expect to see how they executed this thing at all, and it blew me away, honestly. Like,
so
practical
spoilers for this, because even explaining the hand gimmick kind of gives away the fun of seeing that first sequence play out, right? So
the initial possession itself, a spoiler. I don't say this very much, but that sequence, that first initial possession where Mia,
I think
first
it's Mia,
right?
They call her Me as like a nickname.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So when Mia shakes the hand for the first time, scary shit.
Honestly,
I don't say that a lot because I've been so desensitized to a lot of things, but this was truly scary. The last time I kind of felt this was when I saw The Conjuring, and it was during that deep possession moment where the witch really had a Lily Tomlin's character, right? And that was like, whoa, that was freaking creepy. This one, dude, like I was so in. After this, I was like, throw me anything you got, dude. I'm ready. It was just it was, even talking about it right now, I have goosebumps. It was so intense. And then how
the way they pulled it off, the way they do it, it's so interesting because leading in, it's visually interesting because so the whole thing is, you shake the hand of the thing, you say, talk to me. There's this whole like ritual thing, high school kid stuff, right? It's like, it's literally like Bloody Mary kind of like, you do this to open the spirit world and stuff like that. And so when they say, talk to me, they immediately see like a thing shake, like on the other side of it, shaking their hand. What's great is that you only see Mia's, like, which is so interesting, right? It's like when you see that first one, you're like, whoa, you're like, they do it to where you get her point of view, and then like when she gets possessed, they like follow her head going back with the camera.
The camera trick is very neat in this thing, and then the makeup, right? They blacken the eyes and the mouth area immediately once they make that a connection with the hand, and like it just looks so good. I'm not sure what's practical in CG, but I don't care because it just looks good. That's what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean? And even the visions of the dead people, like, dude, they spent some money on that practical look. They looked awesome. The dead people, they looked awesome. And just that hand connection. As we go through, text, put a spoiler down there. So just real quick. So as you continue to see the hand gimmick go, you understand that this is kind of like the new drug amongst the kids, pretty much, where they're gathering together, I'm in a party. It's like, hey, let's gather together. Let's see everyone touch this hand. Let's record it and stuff. Let's see, all the experiences. And there's an awesome montage in this thing that shows how this hand really spends like it's like the party. You know what I mean? It's legit, like, just passing the blunt around pretty much to everybody. Everybody have a hit.
It was awesome. Hit, their head goes back, and they're like, "Oh man, that feels good," or whatever. And they each do wild and crazy things when they're under the influence of it. And what's wild too is that what's so smart is that you don't see the ghosts for everybody. Like,
no,
once
you don't.
Again, it's like you only see the main character when she goes through it. And it's like, I do love how it's like, okay, at first you're like, well, is this a thing? And they immediately confirm that, this isn't like just a thing they're all seeing in their heads. Like, this is just like, this is literally a thing. And like, so I guess, man, I know it's tough to talk about this one, right? Even though it's like, because okay, spoilers are still up.
We like the only way to really talk about it is to spoil the shit out of it, because so
getting into the plot itself.
Right? So during that whole montage, right, where the friends get together to take a hit out of this thing pretty much for the entire night, right? The little brother of one of the characters really wants to try it. So again, part of the gimmick is you cannot have the connection for more than 90 seconds because bad shit happens, right? So they were like, no, you can't try it, you're too little, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, oh, how about if we just do it for 50 seconds, right? So they were like, okay, no harm, no foul. It's less than the time needed. But then what happens here, right? Demons play demon shit, right? So the ghost that possessed this little kid was acting like, Mia's mom, right? What happens then? Oh no, don't sever the connection yet. Classic horror stuff. And in theaters, you're like, oh, come on, which was great. I'm like, that's total classic horror stuff. But like, it had its tropes in here, but all the tropes that it did show, they were definitely like necessary to the story. You needed that moment in there to kind of continue, especially because her character, honestly, like Mia's character is so broken, right? She's going through so much emotional shit. This is why she's so susceptible to these demons. Apparently, that's the one thing demons have in common everywhere across the board. There's susceptible, people who are very vulnerable are the weak ones who are like emotionally broken and stuff like that. So, the demons start to play a trick on Mia. Obviously, it's what they do, and it's great. As Tex mentioned, like you don't see this, like you don't see a demon actually like playing a trick on her. It's like it's all done through the characters and this awesome makeup and these awesome sound editing that they use for like the voices of these demons and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden shit goes crazy, and we get one of the most brutal scenes I've seen in a long time in theaters, where this kid, this kid who's possessed.
That was the thing. He's a fucking kid.
He's like 12 or something, right?
So that's it. So before we move on, that's the one thing I want to give credit to this movie is that no, it definitely did feel like these are kids doing kid stuff and teenagers doing dumb kid shit, which is why when you get the tropes of oh, okay, maybe if we do the hand thing again, it'll save them, et cetera, et cetera. When you get all that stuff, right? I think it works because it works. Yes. It's hard to pin down, but it's like an energy, right? It's like
absolutely. It works because it's that juvenile thinking, right? It's like, hey, listen, like maybe if you try this again and reverse it, it'll work. Or it's like, oh no, let's do it for a little longer. No. You know what I mean? Like it's the right mentality for the characters in the script, right? It's to stay in the moment, to keep living in the moment because they're having so much fun. It looked like a fucking grand old time they were having until that kid bashed his head into the table.
Yes, kid starts bashing the possessed kid starts bashing his head into the table. Then he starts to try and pull out his eye.
So good.
It's dope because they pop it out just a little bit, right?
Yes, it's so good. I love how they shot it too, because they show they
show the eye,
the fingers actually going in there, right?
Yeah. It was very that's the good practical stuff, right? Because they CG in the blood coming out of his head when he's bashing his head in, because it's like, of course, right? You can't have like a, of course, but
it's shot well because it's dark enough where it doesn't like really impede that.
Yeah,
Unlike in the Craven
still,
trailer, you see CG blood everywhere. Anyways,
and still you're seeing this kid bashing his head in. So that was the other thing, right? So
many
it's like,
times,
wow.
and then it doesn't just end at the table.
yeah, the table keeps going. It makes sure to show you that like the candle that you're supposed to blow out still lit. Like, if you paid attention when Mia was leaving the room, you can see the little light of the candle still on. And it's like, oh, there it is. And so, and then that's where the real plot kicks in, right? It's so, she starts seeing the ghost everywhere. She starts seeing her mother. And like, it turns into this whole thing where she's trying to rescue him because he's trapped in like this limbo area.
Yeah.
And so we get this wild sequence of like her, like, so she keeps trying to do the talk to me's, as like of course she's a kid, she's going through all this stuff, trying to save her friend, but she's also like trying to talk to her mother,
and she's getting manipulated by these demons on the other side, like showing her these visions, right?
Yeah, and she's constantly, she's constantly doing talk to me's. That's the whole thing. She's doing more and more and more until she sees one of like, oh well, where is the kid now? And you get this awesome scene of like limbo where it's like they're like they're like pulling apart his body, or
it
like
reminds me of the Event Horizon Hell sequence, right? Where they're showing all this wild stuff going on, and it's really cool because this, like in this talk to me connection that she's having right now, it's the ghost that's letting her in, and not her letting the ghost in. So the ghost says, "I can show you where he's at, but you have to follow me." So she goes down here, and just a wild visual of this like purgatory hell kind of thing where this dude's getting just like
it's so like
a horde like undead thing. It looks really good. It's really haunting too. It looked great. Again, that was all practical. It was just a scene with people with a bunch of marinara sauce and spaghetti on them or something. You know what I mean? but it looked great, man.
That's what it was.
It looked great. And then we continue with the story as she's getting deeper and deeper with these connections with these ghosts because of all the talk to me's, right? And obviously she's passing the 90 seconds that you're supposed to like not pass every time she's doing it. So we get to this point where she's super like manipulated now. I'm not gonna reveal little details here throughout the story, but she's in it to win it, right? Like she's already like, okay, I gotta follow whatever my mom's telling me, kind of thing. And the mom's like, hey, like I can help your friend, I'll keep him safe over here, but you have to kind of relieve him of his pain. And this all goes back to a point in the movie where, in the beginning of the movie, where she's driving and there was a kangaroo, I should say, a deer, or in Australia, silly me, it was a kangaroo on the road, and they couldn't put it out of its misery. So it all ties back to that. And it just, the end sequence there, I'm not gonna spoil too much, but it gets really good at the end, how everything goes down with Mia, and how just the ending, the end sequence of it.
So unfortunately, I do want to spoil it because that's the thing.
So let's do it. Let's do it. I was being nice, Tex. You know me. I love spoiling the shit out of this thing.
I know, but we have to praise it, right?
Yeah, because it's so good, right?
I don't feel right just saying it's so good because it's just so. Unfortunately, full spoilers for talks. We're giving it one more time. Like we've been spoil it. But this is the big one, right? This is the one where it's like, if you hear this now, I'm sorry, please go see it. But if
spoiler, please.
Yes. This is the last one because this is the big one. This is the ending, and it's such a cool ending that it's like you kind of have to see it play out. So that's enough setting the table. So so the whole thing is, if you die while you're possessed, they mention it during the movie, is if you die while you're possessed, the hand keeps you. They keep you. And so, the demon who's like her mother tells her, we'll protect him forever once you do this thing, once she kills him. So she decides to die herself. She jumps in front of a car. You see her body, you see the car accident, then you see her get up. And it's like, oh, it takes a second because
it does take a second,
you're like, oh, she's getting up, but then she walks around, you don't see people react to her, and then she's in the hospital, and it's such a cool sequence because you see like you see time moving, and I know, I feel like I've seen something like that before where time starts moving. Maybe it was like you ever A24, you ever see a ghost story where it's the ghost with the sheet that they're in this house and time keeps moving, but they don't really react, like they don't get to interact.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've heard of the name. I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
actually.
it's the one with like the the really small like 4x3, like a standard definition kind of thing.
Oh geez.
But
okay.
But the whole thing is, it also messes with time in that way, in that like time keeps moving forever and ever until they end up in like a future hellscape or whatever, because it's like everything's gone. So but the whole thing is, she starts walking around the hospital. She sees her friend. She sees Riley, or the name of the little brother. He's all healed up, and
he's all healed up. So you can tell like time definitely passed, because he was he didn't look like himself at all. He was all just fucked up still. Because of all the injuries and stuff. So
it's great that they confirmed that he was okay. And they, but then
that whatever she did worked. Right. Yeah, because obviously it was a soul for a soul sacrifice here. Right.
Yes.
So she understood at that very moment, like, because what she saw, it wasn't Riley on the wheelchair. It was just this old man kind of telling her to put him out of his misery. Right.
It's the spirit possessing him.
Yes, exactly.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah. So he wanted to pretty much throw him down a hill into a highway, a very busy highway. So she understands at that moment, once her mom again tells her, which again, makeup on the mom, super creepy. It tells her, hey, listen, like, we got this. And she kind of was like, wait a minute, like, it doesn't sound right. You see something in her click, it's not very blatant, but something in her clicked, and then from there you see that whole like sequence text talk about with the accident, her throwing herself in the street. You don't see her throwing herself, but you see the accident. I think it's very well done too, and that and then her ghost pretty much getting up, right, and walking, and she ends up in the hospital where she passes by the room of the old man who's dead, and then she sees her dad, who in a previous sequence she had stabbed in the neck, right? We don't know if he's dead or not. He was last seen alive because her friend found her dad kind of still breathing, but still trying to.
So my interpretation was that he died because he walks through an elevator that's all lit up. And you see a little up sign, and then it closes and she can't go in there. So that was my thing. It's like, okay, that was my interpretation. But that's the thing, is like, at that point, it's all just, whatever we think happened.
At that point, it doesn't really matter, because my thing was like, oh, maybe her dad is alive. And that's the moment where his soul kind of goes back to the living world, going up, right? Which at that point, it doesn't really matter to us yet. But what really matters,
is everything goes dark around her. She starts seeing a light with a hand reaching out.
Yeah,
and it's so cool, man.
And it's cool because you don't see the hand until she's walking towards the light. Like, you see a pinhole light right at the end, and you're like, oh, light at the end of the tunnel, obviously. And like, no, it's not. It's actually a freaking hand, and she shakes it, and she realizes then, like, holy shit, I'm dead. I'm a ghost. I'm the one shaking this hand. And that the way they did that, dude, is so awesome. Like,
because it goes back to the POV shot that they've been doing this whole time, of like a ghost sitting there, and then you like, it's good, man.
And again, like, it plays to the point of the gimmick. Like, it doesn't matter how the hand got there, even though we know, like, she was the last one in possession of the hand, right? Because her dad finds it, right? But now the hand pops up. It looks like in South America or Spain or something, because they're talking Spanish at the end, right? So that's what I love about this gimmick, that it's something you can end every talk to me like this, pretty much, in some cool form like that, where they realize that they're a ghost. It's going to be a thing. I know it. I'm glad, like you said, I'm glad it's A24 and not Blumhouse, because they would have already already started showing out.
We would have got the origin of the hand. We would have got, look who's talking to. We would have got talk to me again. Talk to me for a fourth time, but yeah, man.
And the last one, please talk to me,
Yeah. So that's what I mean. That's why I was like, I had to spoil it, because we just kind of had to. Fully talk about why that ending was so cool, and why it's so, like, it's satisfying. That's the thing. It's got tropes in it, and there are moments where you're like, I don't know, but at the
Yeah.
same time,
but
it
those
goes by
moments
so
kind of
quickly.
yeah,
It goes by so quickly.
yeah, exactly. The pacing is great. Those little, questionable moments dissipate very quickly. The tropes,
Yeah.
the tropes, as I mentioned before, are a necessity in the story. Like, you can't take out those tropes, and the story would be hard to progress without it. Like, for instance, when she's getting attacked by her, her demon dad, and it's no one, her dad comes in, boom, like, I saw that one coming, but it was totally needed. I'm like, oh, here it comes. I know it's gonna happen, but like, it still hit the point. It hit the mark, even though you knew it was coming, because it was so needed in the progression of the story for her to get to where it is. And for our protagonist, she's super talented, man. She anchored this whole thing. From
actress.
point A to point B to point C, man. And she did a fantastic job. She goes through the gamut of like emotions in this thing.
Yeah,
from happy to sad
and then of course the possession. Starting like when you get that possession scene, like if that doesn't win you over with her, I don't know what will.
Dude.
Right?
Yes, because I like it's one of the few possessions that it doesn't have in my opinion, it doesn't sound like it has a voice kind of effect on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you can tell it's just the actress and these like huge contact lenses, right, that they put on her probably to look like Mr. Burns when he gets all his like medication, right? So it's like, I bring you love and I bring you peace. But anyways, folks, go watch Talk to Me. It's the probably the best horror movie that's going to come out this year.
Oh man.
Yeah. I'm glad. Listen, it almost, it took 8 months. It took 8 months, right? But we got there.
Theaters.
We got there. We have the Exorcist in October and stuff, and then we also have what, Saw. This is you Saw out there, Tex. Like, what the fuck is that about, dude?
Saw X that takes place in
between 1 and 2.
No, it's 2 and 3.
Is it? So because I read between 1 and 2.
No, it's between 2 and 3. It's about him trying to figure out a way to get rid of his cancer.
Yeah, he's going to Mexico, right?
Yeah, it's during that era. Because remember, during Surgery, he's figured it out. He's figured out something. And in part 2, he was, that was the whole thing. Is he was trying to so by Surgery, he's already doing it. So it's and Part one was remember in the timeline. Part 1 was happening at the same time, like
as part 3 or something, right?
Yeah, it was either part 3 or like maybe even part 4. Like it was
something like that. Yeah,
Saw 1 was later. That's the whole thing. It's in between 2 and 3 when he's doing active stuff.
You know what though?
Remember when he's wearing his baseball cap? And it's like to make him.
He's
look
like,
younger.
"Hey, young kids, what's up?"
Yeah. That's
he was in the flashback, right? That was his young version.
Yeah, that was the flashback they did to him because they were like, "Oh yeah, this is several years younger, John Kramer."
Anyways,
he was just wearing a baseball.
We're getting way off topic here, but
but point is,
point is that horror. I don't think it's gonna get any better than this. Prove me wrong. I would love to be proved wrong because this movie, I gave it a 9 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was fucking great for a horror movie. I really enjoyed the heck out of this thing, and I think you guys will too. Go see Talk to Me in theater, folks, and remember, this has been episode 160 of the Morgan Official CorpsFeed podcast. I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face, and with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Big shout out goes to you guys for listening. A big shout out goes to Del Virus for the artwork. Thank you, Del. You're the best, man. And again, big shout out goes to you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We see you guys checking out all the back episodes. We have 159 of these things in the catalog for you guys. Go check that out anywhere you get your podcasts and your streams. Go check us out on YouTube. This show drops on Mondays, folks. On Mondays, you get all this awesome content now, right out of the gate in the beginning of your week there, so you can listen to it whenever you'd like there. And also, folks, go check us out on YouTube Live, on Twitch Live, Facebook Live on Mondays at 4:20 when you see this stream right in front of you, folks. And go check out The Crypt. Go check out Scary World. Damn, Tex, we have a lot over here. Folks, just remember, it's a scary world out there, all right? But we are here to walk you through it.